Do feel like it is quite rare to find someone so authentic in who they are. Just kidding, I was trying to speak with a UK accent because my girl Sophie has this beautiful British accent. I'll work on it. Anyway, in this show, I interviewed Sophie all the way from Thailand, you guys. Sophie is an online business mentor. She comes from the corporate world in luxury fashion buying. Fascinating. And now she lives this free-spirited, nomadic lifestyle, and she's a huge mental health advocate, which I love so much. We dove into all of it. You're gonna love this show. You're gonna love Sophie. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Sophie, all the way from freaking Thailand, is with us, you guys. It's crazy. I literally have been talking to my husband about going to Thailand forever. It's like on my bucket list, and I'm so excited that you're here with us. It's 10:30 p.m. where she is, you guys, so we can just soak up all of her juicy goodness and all of her magic, and I'm really excited to have you on the show. So welcome to the Chit Chat.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited, and you should definitely come over to Thailand. I think you'll love it.
Yeah, and her accent is like everything. It's everything that I dream of speaking like. I try sometimes to do like a UK accent, but I just can't pull it off. So anyway, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to dive in. You and I have similar businesses, similar niches, and I am obviously obsessed with what I do, so I'm obsessed with what you do. But before we dive into like me doing all the talking and asking the questions, just tell us who you are and what you do and what you love.
Yeah, definitely. My name is Sophie. I'm obviously from the UK, and I'm an online business mentor and general entrepreneur. Like, love all things business, online business specifically. I basically help aspiring entrepreneurs set up an online business. So if they want to escape that 9 to 5 hustle culture, burnout lifestyle, help them build an online business that actually works for them, not one that they work for. So I'm very much all about freedom, helping people find the things that they love in life and going after their authentic path, and putting them back on track, basically, outside of the societal norms, societal expectations. So I've been doing that myself for the past 5 years since I've been running my own online business. I live nomadically. I live on the other side of the world now. I live in Thailand. So yeah, I'm all about helping people kind of build an online business that helps them create more freedom in their life.
Heck yeah, I'm obsessed with that. And I love that you are embodying, like, you're like a walking sales page for what you do. And I think that's so freaking cool. Tell us, like, first of all, so you're working kind of like with the beginner of a business woman who's like, I just got to get out of this grind, this hamster wheel. Like, I want to live my own life, my own way, on my own terms. I think that's
Yeah.
really cool because a lot of times when I talk to business mentors, it's like they're kind of all over the board with who they help. So I love that you've like narrowed it down to that specific of a client. Take us back to 5 years ago when you made the decision to dive into business. What did that look like, and why did you have the urge?
Yeah, I was actually kind of forced into it.
Interesting.
Because if we look back 5 years, obviously we went into the pandemic, right? So COVID
Mm.
times. Prior to that, I was working as a fashion buyer. I'd been working as a fashion buyer for about 11, 12 years. I was working for Burberry, and I'd actually already quit my job before the pandemic began. So January 2020, I'd already said I've had enough of this corporate life, but didn't really at that time think, oh, I can start a business. That didn't even really occur to me. I was going to go traveling. Travel has always been a big part of my life. So I was like, I'm going to go to South America, and then when I get back, I'll figure it out. Obviously, then April 2020 comes, we go into lockdown, particularly in London. We couldn't barely go a mile from our house. So I was like, okay, I've already quit my job. I can't go back now. I also can't get on a flight to Latin America. So what am I going to do? So I ended up changing my LinkedIn profile to say that I was a freelance buyer, freelance e-commerce manager, and people just came to me, luckily. Like, it was very much, I think, right place, right time. Lots of people were starting e-commerce businesses at that moment in time. So I fell into it. I started helping people, realized a lot of people had the same problems, and then started like packaging up all of my services, packaging up my knowledge, creating services off the back of that in terms of one-on-one business mentoring, group programs, memberships, digital products for people. And that kind of evolved over the past 4 or 5 years. And then it got to probably middle of last year, and I was like, Actually, I've gone on my own journey here. I have more to offer here. I can teach people how I've done this, how I've escaped that corporate world and gone through so many burnouts and decided that I want to live life on my own terms. More people, I know more people want to do that because I meet them every day in this lifestyle that I'm living. And there's so many people living nomadically that haven't quite figured out a way to work online. So that's how I've ended up coming kind of full circle to where I first started, and now teaching people how to go on their own journey with the skills and the passions that they've got, which is how I essentially built that first phase of my business.
Dude, so cool. I mean, it's funny because you said 5 years ago, and I didn't even, for some reason, that didn't register. Like, yeah, that was COVID times, but this is just a like so side note, funny story. I remember sitting on my couch, and like COVID was kind of like starting to be talked about, but it wasn't super serious. No one knew the severity of it. But I remember looking on TikTok, and someone from the UK had posted a video of themselves cheering a bottle or like a glass of wine in the mirror to themselves, and they were like, day 126 of quarantine. And I was like, that's not gonna happen. Like silly
Yeah.
goose UK people, like, like just really funny. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, that really happened. But that was like my
Yeah.
first, I was like, oh wow, like it's really serious over there. Just
Yeah,
really
it
funny,
was
like side
wild.
note. Yeah, really
Yeah.
wild. But I'm curious, when you are coaching people, and because your story kind of started during quarantine, I often hear of people, like a lot of businesses, especially online businesses, went crazy, like took off during that time period. When you're coaching people now, what's the difference? Because I do feel like there's been an increase of people obviously coaching online, starting online businesses. What's the difference now in terms of like how to separate yourself, and how do you coach a beginner to kind of like go against the grain or like stay up with the current of what's going on in the online space? How do you coach through that?
Yeah, I think there's two things that come up there for me. One is authenticity, and that you have to have like a really strong, authentic voice, very
Mhm.
unique selling point. I think, like you say, there's so many people coaching now in the same space as probably we both coach in, and everyone's gone on their own paths, everyone's gone on their own journey. So I feel like you really have to have a reason for why you're also adding into that industry, right? So something that really sets you apart from the crowd. So I would coach on how are you finding that? What is your unique voice? What is the thing that's most authentic to you? And then I think it's the same method and approach, I guess, still applies, I think, to when I first started my business. I built a business accidentally, but I think people can use that strategy quite purposely, in the sense of I built a business based off of the skills and the passions that I already had. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like I was reinventing the wheel. I wasn't having to learn something new. I was stepping into that, because if you already know you're good at something and you already know that you enjoy doing something, I feel like you're already putting yourself one step further forward for success, because you're not having to learn something new. It's just coming quite naturally to you. So I feel like the bit that's changed the most is that, really, because there's so much noise in the marketplace, you have to make sure that you stand out and that you've got a unique selling point in some way. But actually the core foundations of what I teach is kind of still the same. I don't think that is ever going to change too much, actually, because I think skills and passions still, particularly if you're a one-man band founder and you're going into that coaching space, for example, I think that still definitely applies.
Amen. I agree to that completely. Do you coach your clients to like what's your go-to platform? Like I know you started kind of on LinkedIn with like the e-commerce and all of that kind of stuff. With your clients now, like what do you say is the go-to platform that you coach on?
I think it depends on what you align most with. So going back to that kind of authenticity piece, that's not even just like from like a customer facing standpoint. I think that also comes down to you as a person and your core values. Like, so for me, I sell mainly through LinkedIn, honestly. Like that has
Hmm.
been where I've positioned myself the most. But I have also had clients come to me through Instagram, for example. So I think, but I don't necessarily resonate so much with Instagram, right? Like that is not my
Interesting.
favorite preferred platform. So that's why I've then created myself a podcast, and I've got a blog, and
Yeah.
I'm going down the route of more SEO driven strategy. So actually part of the coaching that I do is like, well, what feels good for you? Because if you're
Yeah.
not going to be able to maintain something, there's absolutely no point in you trying to show up somewhere that feels really inauthentic. It's actually going to be more beneficial for you and your energy put somewhere that you actually enjoy marketing
Yeah.
yourself, basically.
I love that. I love that. And I find it fascinating that, like, I don't even think of LinkedIn, honestly, but listening to you, I'm like, maybe I need to learn LinkedIn. What is, when you say like you don't light up at Instagram, but you have a blog, you have LinkedIn, you have a podcast, like what is it about LinkedIn specifically that you feels more in alignment to you than Instagram?
I think you can go a little bit deeper. I feel like Instagram is so much of like a highlights reel of people's
Mhm.
world, and you can only really get so deep through an Instagram reel, through a carousel post, through a static post. And for some reason, it's just never resonate with me. Maybe it's like the generation that I grew up in, like we grew up like just getting Instagram, and it was just like, let's
Yeah.
just dump all of our
Yep.
photos on the app. Like it wasn't,
Yep.
there was no strategy behind it, right? Whereas with LinkedIn, for some reason, I always use that for my career anyway. So that was always, it's always been in my field, if you like. And I think you can express yourself in a more standout way because you can,
Mhm.
through written text and images on LinkedIn, I feel like you can set yourself out apart from, whereas on Instagram, TikTok, there's a lot of trends and people tend to
Yeah.
follow the trends and jump on the trends just to get themselves seen. And I think you can do that in a different way on LinkedIn.
Fascinating. I'm going to be going and stalking your, or not your Instagram, your LinkedIn as soon as we hang up here. And like, I want to check out how you, do you have any like trainings on LinkedIn that we can buy from you?
I can definitely put you in touch with someone that does.
Yeah, for sure. Perfect. That's amazing. So walk us through, okay, so you live in Thailand, which is insane. Walk us through like a day in your life now that you live on your own terms, you run your own company. Like what does your life look like? Tell us about you, Sophie, as a woman.
Yeah, definitely. So I love slow mornings. Slow mornings
Mhm.
are my favorite thing. I normally wake up at like 8, 8:30, sometimes a bit earlier if I've been to bed on time. But as you can see, I do
Yeah,
late calls
yeah,
sometimes, so
for
it's a little bit
sure.
harder to wake up. So then I normally have a slow morning. I've got a nice balcony outside. I've got a nice view of all of the palm trees. So I'll sit out there, do a meditation, journaling session, and I don't look at my phone for the first hour of my day.
Yep.
I had a Jay Shetty podcast once, and he was talking about like putting on your armor before you go into battle for the day, and that was for
Mhm.
me not getting overwhelmed by the messages, because especially where I have a time zone difference with most of my friends and family, it can get overwhelming. So I don't look at my phone for the first hour of the day. I don't work in the mornings. Like that morning time is very much for me. After I've done my meditation, I normally go to the gym, do some yoga, depending on what I feel like in that day. And then I generally start work around like midday. I work better in the afternoons, honestly. My brain is not that awake in the morning. So
Interesting.
normally working in the afternoon, so like 12 till 5, 6, and then I'll go for a sunset beach walk in the evening, and then normally hang out with friends in the after the sunset, have some dinner, or if I've got calls, obviously coming home and doing a little bit more work in the evening as well. But generally it's like a slow start and then it ramps up in the afternoon.
That's literally like a dream day. I love that so much for you. Like what a cool way to live your life. What is the like how far is the travel back home to the UK from where you live?
It's quite far because I live on an island. So just even
Wow.
getting off the island is a bit of an effort, honestly, because there's no airport here. It's
Oh,
like you
wow.
have to get a boat and then you fly back to the main city and then you get a flight. And so it's a whole like I think I'm going home in August and it's going to be about a 2-day affair just to get
Oh my
home.
gosh. That is
Yeah.
crazy. Do you get homesick?
I've been doing this for so long now that I don't. Obviously, I miss my family. I'm very close to my sister, and I would love to have access to them on a more regular
Yeah.
basis. But I think it's just been part of my life. Travel has been part of my life since I was 21, so over 12 years, and it just feels quite natural for me to not be in the UK anymore. I do like to go back and visit and see friends and family, obviously, and get some British comforts. But
Yeah.
in general, I don't classify the UK as like my home anymore. Obviously, it's
Interesting.
home in terms of going home to see people, but it's not where I live. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely don't get homesick. I normally get homesick if I'm out of routine, and
Mhm.
if I go home, actually, I'm more out of my routine when I go home now.
Yes,
So it's
I
an interesting
totally get
one.
that. Totally get that. How long do you think you'll be in Thailand? Is that your forever home or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I don't think it's my forever home. I've just got a visa here that allows me to be here for 5 years. So for now it's my base. Like I've been traveling, I've been a nomad for 4 years. So about a year and a bit into starting my business, I moved to Bali and I haven't really stopped traveling since. So came to Thailand 2 years ago, loved it, and was like, I'm gonna come back at some point. That point was January this year, so I came back in January, and I've been here about 6 months now. And for now, this feels like, when you find a place that you're just in flow. Well, that's how I
Mhm.
can describe it here. Everything's kind of falling into place. I've started a co-working community here, so I've got an in real life community building project going on here. There's a lot of projects coming to me being here as well. So it feels like right now I'm meant to be here. Whether that's
Yeah.
forever, I don't know, but for now it feels good.
Man, I admire you so much. What a cool life. Have you been to the US?
I have. I actually used to work for Kate Spade, and
Okay.
I would travel between London and New York very
Okay.
frequently. So I was in New York a lot. I've been to LA, I've been to Vegas, I've been to Chicago.
Oh, wow.
But I haven't explored anywhere outside of that, so I need to come and do another visit at some point.
Yeah. What do you think about what is the biggest difference between like the US and the UK? What would you say?
I think the work culture. The work culture,
Mhm.
I feel like in the US, everyone is very driven. You have very kind of strict rules, I guess, around especially in the corporate world. I worked in
Yeah.
corporate world when I was working with US companies. And you're very to the point. You get the stuff done that needs to be done without the fluff. Whereas in the UK, I think there's a lot of fluff. And because I've worked with a lot of American companies, I'm actually way less fluff. Like I'm very much like to the
Yeah.
point, quite direct. So I think I adopted quite an American mindset when I was from all of the work experiences that I have. But I'd say that's probably the biggest one that I can picture.
I can't even imagine a world like where corporate isn't like that. Like I can't
Yeah.
even because I've also been in corporate for a long time. I can't even imagine not being such a grind. So that's crazy to conceptualize.
Yeah.
What when you go to I want to get back to your business and like understanding your business. When you go to find a new client, what are you mostly working with her or him? Like who is your ideal client and what are you mostly working through with them?
Yeah, I mainly work with women. I have worked with men in the past, but for now, I prefer to work with women. And there's two people that I would say I work with. One is somebody that was probably in the same situation as me. Probably they work in fashion because fashion is quite a toxic industry, and most people want to get out of it. And there's a lot of transferable skills to go in and work in on your own business. So I get a lot of people approaching me from ex fashion or ex corporate world, and they want to work online because maybe they just want more flexibility to work from home, especially fashion jobs. They don't really let you do that. Or
Mhm.
potentially it's that they want to come and travel and they see me being a nomad and traveling all over the world and being able to work freely from wherever I am. They're like, oh, how do I do that? So I get a lot of questions from people either because they feel a bit trapped in their corporate job or they want to travel. And then there's the other person that is already a traveler and maybe they are a digital nomad but they're working remotely for a company and they want a bit more freedom. They don't just want the location flexibility, they also want control over their time, their finances, and they want to just basically be able to live this lifestyle on a longer term basis, in which case starting their own online business would be the
Mhm.
best option for them. So it's kind of either you're in the corporate job or you've already found like an entry level point into this kind of nomad world and you want to take that next step and create your own thing.
I love that. And what is your specialty in terms of like, are you helping them create a group program? Do you take them straight to one-on-one? Like, what is your go-to specialty when you're coaching them to find this freedom?
Yeah, I guess it goes back to I what I like to do is picture their lifestyle. So what is the dream lifestyle that you want to achieve? Because if I'm giving you the suggestion to go and do one-on-one mentoring, for example, but you don't want to be spending all of your time at a laptop doing online Zoom sessions, that's probably not going to work for the lifestyle that you want to achieve. So the first step for me is always trying to find that clarity around, well, what do you actually want your lifestyle to look
Mm.
like? and then how can we create a business model that works for that lifestyle. So it's quite unique for each person that I work with. I would say that there's a lot of people that want to coach or mentor, but then there's also people that that's not what they want. They actually want to provide a service. They want to do the done for you work, in which case maybe they create like more of an agency format, or maybe they want to do digital products. So yeah, it's a bit of a mix between people that want to coach or mentor, people that want to start digital products, or people that want to do more of like a service done for you slash hybrid mentoring group program.
I love that. What is your favorite thing to do? Like, do you find you're more passionate in the one-on-one coaching, or do you find like because I think you have group programs, right? What do you
Yeah.
like to do the most?
I like to do the group. The group for me is nice because you don't just get to do one-on-one with people. You also get to help them build that community out and get people to meet other people. And a lot of the things that I do are built around community. Like when I was living in London, I actually used to run networking events for e-commerce business founders. Here, I've
Wow.
started an in-person community for digital nomads. So I really like that community element. So I think the group for me is the most rewarding because you get to connect people with people, and
Yeah.
then from that you see beautiful friendships, relationships, business partnerships form out of the back of that. And for me, that's like what I enjoy the most, is like that connection piece. Is
Yeah.
obviously it's a very rewarding to see somebody start their business and do really well with it. But I actually think some of it is like the beauty of it is in that like messy middle part where you're actually building that and you're building the relationships, and those dynamics is really nice to see as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I love the group aspect for all of those reasons too. It can be very magical. When you have people that come to you and they've been so wired to believe that the 9 to 5 is the right thing to do, like they're following the rules, they're making good money, they're comfortable, but they have like this inner urge of like, I just want to be bigger than what I am. I know that there's a different life for me. Yet it's hard for them to conceptualize that that's a possibility for them. It's hard for them to imagine that it could actually happen for them. What would you say is like, besides just going for it and besides like learning all of the things, what would you say are the characteristics that you see allow for success to happen to completely transfer your life into this different way of living from a 9 to 5 to now running your own business? Like, what are those characteristics that you think are like, you have to have this or else it won't work?
Yeah, I think you have to have an element of being able to step outside your comfort zone and take risks. I think that there's there's always going to be risk with leaving your job, right? And
Yep.
going into this entrepreneurship world or self-employed world, because you don't have that security blanket that you had before. You don't have the social security, all of those things. So there has to be somebody that is willing to take a level of risk, and you have to have someone that is resilient and wants to adopt that mindset of I'm not failing, I'm learning. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you are looking at things as, oh, I didn't do this well, and you're not looking at what lesson that could teach you, you're never going to be able to move forward. You're always going to get stuck on the thing that went wrong. And I think that resilience piece is really key. So part of the program that I teach now, because I've gone on my own journey with my mental health and mindset and all of this, is how before I even start working with someone, it's like uncovering what are those things that might hold them back in terms of their mindset. And if that mindset piece hasn't been fully formed in terms of reducing the entry, the first barrier, limiting beliefs, it's going to be very hard to move on through that setup process. So that's something where I always start, is like, right, okay, what mindset are we working with? And then the other piece is expansion, like getting them to surround themselves with people that already have the lifestyle that they want, or following people on social media, or just getting acquainted with somebody that already has the lifestyle that they're dreaming about, because that's how you can see that it's possible for you.
So good. I was thinking, I was on my morning walk this morning. I also love a slow morning. So I was like on my morning walk this morning and I was literally thinking to myself, for some reason last night I was on the couch and I was looking back at all of my old posts from 2020, 2021, and I'm like, man, if I could have had the expanders around me that I have now back then, I would quite literally be queen of the world. And I think that piece, like you nailed it, like the expansion piece of you can hustle as much as you want. And I do think that's part of what you're saying, like the hustle, the taking risks is required. but I was a hustler. Like there, I wasn't lacking any motivation or any, like, I believe in myself and I've pretty much always been that way. What I was lacking back then was the expansion piece. Like I was not in the room with the people that I needed to be in the room with. And so I was always defaulting back to my 9 to 5. Like, well, I always have this safety net, this comfy zone. And I was just looking at the old version of myself, like, man, if I could have been around women back then who are doing it so big that I surround myself with now, like the game would have been totally different, which I don't regret because, you know, I wouldn't be where I am now and it all happens on purpose. But I totally agree with you that if you're listening to this show and you're listening to both Sophie and myself, like get in the room, get into the community, get around people who you're like, man, I would love to do what she's doing. And maybe a part of you feels like you can't, or like, I just don't know if I ever could, you know, that sort of thing. It's so important. But I know I saw on in your information, you do have, it's an acronym. I can't remember it, so I'm so sorry, but something about mental health. What is the mental health thing that you run that you've created?
Yeah, so I've gone on my own journey with mental health in terms of I struggled a lot with anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and particularly when I moved to Bali, classic situation where I found all of these healing modalities that were really working for me. So
Mhm.
I went through traditional therapy, did CBT, talking therapy, all of that, and then found all of these other like more natural healing methods, breath work, Reiki,
Mhm.
even yoga, for example. And I got to a point where I was like, I've learned a lot about mental health. And my business partner for that business, actually, she was a very pivotal moment for me. I met her in Bali and she introduced me to breathwork, and
Wow.
that changed my life actually. And when I was like, oh, I've got a lot of knowledge about mental health now, maybe there's something here. Like, I would love to help more people understand this. Not many people understand what's happening to them when they do have anxiety, or that they can actually change that for themselves. So I came up with the concept of TINA, which is an acronym for Time is Not a Healer. And I
Mhm.
believe the concept behind that is time is not going to heal you. You have to take action to heal yourself.
So good.
So yeah, like the point is that we're giving people tools to educate them on what's happening for them when they are struggling with anxiety, empowering them to take action to actually heal themselves, and destigmatize the conversation, because the conversation is still very stigmatized around mental health. So yeah, my business partner's actually in the US. She's in Chicago. She's a ex inpatient mental health nurse, and
Wow.
she has like a background in psychology. So it's all science backed. Everything that we're doing is not just from my personal experiences. But yeah, we're slowly that's a model that's kind of a work in progress in terms of a business model. We're taking it quite slow of how we approach that, but we definitely believe in the concept that people can heal themselves. They just need the access to the right toolkit, and that's what we're essentially trying to provide them with Tina.
I'm obsessed. First of all, thank you for that work. I think it's so important. And I have mad respect for you for like taking that on and coming from such an authentic place of you've been there and you want to help people not have to get as low as you have been. Um, I love that. And it's interesting because I have my own story around all of that too. I had my first panic attack ever was in COVID. Like, I don't know, maybe we need to title this episode COVID, but, um, and I, yeah. And I had, at that point, I had done like meditation. I didn't know what breath work was. I had just, you know, the surface level education on meditation. So I had been meditating for a long time, you know, reading all of the personal development, going for walks, exercising, eating clean, like doing all the things that I thought I could holistically do to heal myself from anxiety and depression and then a panic attack. Well, it wasn't enough. It didn't do the job. And so I had that panic attack and I immediately like checked myself into I saw a psychiatrist like immediately because I scared the crap out of myself. And she prescribed medication, which at the time truly saved my life. Like I think there is a time and place for medication, but I'm also a huge proponent in we have all the tools within us most of the time, majority of the time. So I'm no longer on that medication, but it did save my life in the moment. But for someone like you who has the knowledge of all these different pillars, like, you know, you talked about the breath work, you talked about the meditation, the yoga, like all these different ways What are you, when you and your business partner are creating this, are you helping people virtually like tap into these things? Are you teaching them, or like what is the business?
Yeah, at the moment we're not. It's more of an educational platform slash we're giving you the resources to help yourself. Um, how that progresses, like I say, it's a kind of a work in progress of how it progresses
Yeah.
in the future. But at the moment, it's a case of the thing is with mental health, right? A lot of it is prevention over cure. So obviously you got to a stage where it's like, okay, the medication, exactly how you said, has a time and a place. When it gets to that point where actually it's kind of beyond the breath work's not going to help you kind of thing. I actually had a friend message me quite recently. She voice noted me from the UK. She was like, you know, I've just had a panic attack in the middle of the night, and I was trying to do the meditation, and I was like, well, unless you've had that meditation in place for a long time and your nervous system is at some kind of like neutral level, and then it spikes when you obviously have that panic attack, you can then bring yourself back down to that neutral playing
Mhm.
field. But if you're already at this heightened state and you're then having a panic attack, you're only getting higher and higher and higher. So
Yeah.
to come back to that neutral playing field of your nervous system, it's almost impossible. So to have the what we're giving is education on how to basically implement things in your day-to-day lives so that you don't get to the point where your nervous system's up here. You should always kind of, well, obviously not everyone in an ideal world, everyone would be at this like neutral playing field, so that if something does come to rock your destabilize your nervous system, you can elevate, but then you can bring it back down. You can elevate and then you bring it back down. But most of us operate on a level way higher than the neutral playing field, so it's very
Gosh,
difficult for us to
yes.
regulate ourselves. So that's why it's really important to put practices in place in your everyday life, so that if you do struggle with a period in your life where you are highly anxious, having panic attacks, low mood, stressed, low self-worth, you can then bring yourself back to neutral a little bit easier than you would if you were already elevated, if that makes sense. So what we're providing, what the business is essentially education around how to do that. Like if you are struggling with anxiety, what's a morning routine that you can implement in your every single day life to help you stay at that neutral nervous system line. And then from there we also recommend products, services, apps that are going to help you implement that routine basically. So there's kind of the educational side, and then there's the resource side. So we're essentially, we would label ourselves as like an e-commerce, a mental health marketplace. So it's kind of a bit of e-commerce, bit of education. It's a kind of a well-rounded platform at the moment, but how that materializes in the future, I'm not 100% sure. We've got some plans, but we will see where we take it.
I love that. I love that so much. Amazing work, seriously. I'm so sad, but the rest of the recording did not pick up Sophie's end of the mic. I don't know what happened there, but I do want to recap. I asked her two more questions before we wrapped up the show. And one of the first questions was me asking her where she sees herself in 10 years, what her next big move is, and what she envisions for her life just in the near future. And she had the most beautiful answer. I'm not going to be able to do it justice, but she basically said she has no idea like exactly where her life is going to take her, but she knows for sure that she imagines this life where she's living more from the yin energy versus the yang energy. And what that means for her is more ease, more flow, more peace, instead of always hustling and always going to the next thing and outdoing herself. And she said maybe motherhood is in the cards for her, maybe it isn't. She isn't totally sure yet, but she does just imagine her business having multiple streams of passive income and things just being set up in a way where she can just soak up the joy in her life and just live her life to the fullest. And then the second question I asked her was, of course, the final question, which I'm really sad that I couldn't capture this, but it was around her content and the best advice that she's been given in her content. And I loved her answer. It's been different than anybody else so far, which I do appreciate sometimes when there's diversity, but it is like interesting because content is simple and the name of the game is basically just the foundations. But her answer was to tell the same message over and over and over again, and that you cannot repeat the same message too many times, and to refine that message over time, but to never miss out on like explaining the mission of what you're doing and express that mission through a message. And I loved that answer so much. And she also added on, of course, she is obviously a huge, big proponent of authenticity. So she also shared about expressing yourself from a source of authentic and genuine energy versus trying to follow a trend or trying to force it or appear as somebody that you're not. So I loved her answer so much. And that is how we wrapped up the show. And you guys go find Sophie on Instagram at It's Sophie Biggerstaff. I'm going to link everything in the show description notes so that you can find her. But we did close with that. She has a website. You can find her on LinkedIn. You can find her on Instagram. She's everywhere with the same handle. It's Sophie Biggerstaff. I loved the show so much. Thank you guys for listening, and just make sure you go show Sophie some love, and I will see you in the next one.